Alrighty, welcome to another edition of Superkickin with Stephen and Greg. Right here, your favorite host, Stephen A. 1181, right here. The Greg one over there. We got a fun show. We're gonna kind of kick off the show with our own little draft status and where we wanted people to go for the WWE Draft. Then we'll get into the real results. Got some in-ring action to talk about. We finally have what looks like a main event for Backlash, and maybe not the main event we all expected, but we'll have to talk that up. We got AEW news and notes and some in-ring action there as well. So first off, of course, we'll kick off the day with Greg. How are you doing today, Greg? Are you able to hear after your Metal Fest last night, our thrash show, our hardcore show of last night?
Yeah, man, it was very loud and intense and awesome for local area thrash metal night.
Yeah.
And the Queen of the Castle bought us tickets. I am, of course, the metalhead, and her attempt to get into my world a little bit and check out some music that you really wouldn't do otherwise. So we're kind of sharing that part of each other's personality. And I went to a country show not long ago. It was 2 weeks ago. I think Randall Fowler. Shout out to Randall Fowler. But normally, if you're not Garth Brooks, I wouldn't be got that at a country show. So just getting out there and exploring and doing different things. And she came to Metal Night. We had a great time for bands that are really on the ground floor. When I was talking to the guy next to me, I was like, you're really starting out when you have to set up and break down your own equipment. You can't afford roadies. You do it all yourself. And couldn't hear the vocals, but the music was great. The mosh pits were hot, and we just had a blast. So cool connecting with some local bands, young and hungry, just getting their start and getting some time on a big stage. So great time. And I can hear you, so no more ringing in the ears than usual.
And of course, I was on the other end of the spectrum on Tuesday night. Saw Hamilton, the musical, in person for the second time. So, really good night of Hamilton there. Saw it the first time it came through, and of course, it's coming through again, so I had to see it again. So,
nice.
Watch on Disney Plus as well back in the day. Actually, when it streamed live for the first evening, so because there was actually issues because so many people were trying to watch it. But once that got cleared, it was fine. But Hamilton's a really good musical. So there we go. So we have both ends of the musical spectrum there, Greg, kind of taken care of. And then looking forward to many shows coming up as they come. So how do we want to kick this off with do you just want to rattle off your 10 names that you have for SmackDown, and I'll rattle off my 10 names, and we'll kind of see how we compare and we can give each other feedback on each other's? That sound good?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
I mean,
let's hear your 10 names that you drafted to SmackDown, that you would have drafted to SmackDown.
Okay. I wish they'd do a better job of differentiating who's going to get drafted on what night, because if you're doing it, traditional draft style, I mean, like the NFL draft is this week also. So, you go best player available all from the top down. And that's obviously not what this was. So it was weird figuring out who to put where, but I thought I put an interesting group together. And also I thought this would be like a snake draft where, we figured SmackDown would get the first pick since we're starting on SmackDown, and then Raw would get 2 picks. And then it would circle back down to SmackDown. They get 2 picks and they go back. So it was that in mind that I made my selections. So put Raw on one side and SmackDown on the other, and just did the snake draft format. But when you watched SmackDown last night, you can see they were just doing back and forth without the snake concept. But I think the first pick was obvious. Roman was going to stay on SmackDown. They put the little swerve in there that it was him and Solo and Paul Heyman. So I was like, okay, that kind of messes up my board a little bit. But so I picked Roman first, and then I have him take the Usos next.
Okay.
Rhea. I thought Rhea was going to stay. Seth, Becky, so keeping the happy couple together. Randy Orton,
Okay.
Drew McIntyre, Austin Theory, Asuka, and Montez Ford.
Okay.
So I thought the Street Profits were going to get split up this year, but
Not yet.
so far not yet.
Yeah, they kept a lot of the couples together, it feels like. I think Montez and all the Street Profits and Bianca switched. Also, I guess we should note, Greg, that half the roster, I think, was in Europe at the time. So it's probably hard to do, whenever people come back, because there was definitely 3 or 4 days in Europe. I know they showed it must have been the Raw side, because it looked like a lot of Raw superstars in Europe the past few days. So, well, that is interesting because I kind of went some of the same names. I just started putting them in spots, Greg, because I might have just thought about this morning because I was like, oh, yeah, we were going to do that. But anyway, so I did go Roman Solo together as my number one pick, which, like you said, it was weird how they did it. But hey, if we're kind of going off their rules, then we'll just do that. I also put Rhea and Dom together as a pick for number 2. I went Roxanne Perez in the 3rd slot. I just kind of wanted to give her some love. I don't know if we'll see her. Well, we did see some interesting names last night, Greg, which we'll have to bring up on the NXT side. Very surprising on that route. So I would have rather done Roxanne. I did split up Dakota Kai and Io Sky. They were on SmackDown. I put Bailey on Raw, but we did see also that they are looking like they're keeping them together. But I am going to be surprised if that happens. My 5th slot, I went Grayson Waller. I've spoken highly about him a lot of times, Greg. So I threw him in there. New Day with the 6th, and then Theory. We both did have Theory on SmackDown, and that's looking like it has to happen since you have Imperium slotted over to Raw now. I went Duke Hudson because I've talked a lot about him, and then 9 and 10 I put Becky and Seth. I didn't know what to do with Kevin and Sammy. They were going to be my 9th slot, Greg, but it feels like they're going to be just jumping between things until they lose one of the set titles. It looks like. I kind of finished the even. I forget who else I had instead of Theory, I was going to do Drew, but with Drew's status as a not sure, I kind of left him off both sides of the thing, both sides of my fence, Greg. So I went Becky and Seth at the end. So, but we did have what? So we had Roman Solo together, Rhea and Dom. Or did you put Dom with Rhea, or you just put Rhea by herself?
I put Rhea by herself.
Okay.
See how they usually put the priority on champions and making sure it's champions are going near the top of the order.
Yeah, that's true. So, Theory was definitely a guy we had, and then we both had Becky and Seth. So we did have some common ground there. My Raw side, I'll start Raw since you start SmackDown. Raw, I did go Cody Rhodes, obviously number 1. Bianca Belair, number 2. 3 was Montez. So I kind of, I was like, like we kept talking up, Greg. I think it's time for Street Profits to split up, but it doesn't look like they're taking that. They've even picked up a couple wins over the past week, so they might still be on the up and up. But I put Imperium in my 4th slot all together. Just everybody, Gunther, Giovanni, and Ludwig. I did go Edge in my 5th slot, kind of keeping him on Raw. Bailey on Raw in 6th. Bronson Reed, number 7. I did go Braun Breaker, number 8. And then I also brought up Pretty Deadly in the 9th slot and went Usos in my 10th slot. So kind of keeping some tag teams there and calling up Pretty Deadly, which I think is a definite possibility, Greg, after their match with the family on Tuesday night where they got, put in a trunk and driven off. So I don't think there's a better way to write you off TV from NXT, right, Greg? So
right.
I definitely assume they will be getting the call up on Monday night. So what does your side of Raw look like?
Well, the top of our order matched. Um, at Cody number 1
Mhm.
and Bianca number 2.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, this is where my plan got screwed a little bit because I had Solo going number 3.
Okay.
And we've been talking about giving Solo
So,
his solo push since he's come up, he's established. We know how he is. We know how much of a beast he is,
yeah.
and this would be the splitting off of the bloodline, and either they're trying to control both brands or this is the first time they're that fracture in the bloodline thing gets deeper. Um,
And T's
so
lost
that kind
money.
of right, and so that kind of screwed my order a little bit, but I had Gunther going next, and then I went off the board and I took Charlotte.
Did you keep Gunther with Imperium or just Gunther?
I wasn't thinking of Imperium, but I think by extension, probably.
Okay.
Uh,
Then you did go Charlotte. Yeah.
yep, I took
I think her
Charlotte
back on
afterwards.
Raw makes sense.
Yeah, and I figured Charlotte versus Bianca, there's your next big rivalry.
Yeah.
Kick Bailey out of the mix, put
Yeah.
Charlotte in, and we get a matchup that we haven't seen very often at all. Charlotte versus Bianca, and now you have, something worthy of Bianca. She's been mowing through everybody, and Charlotte, she's not going to be able to mow through her. So I thought she would fit right there. And going farther off the wagon, I took Bray Wyatt after
Okay.
Charlotte, taking him off SmackDown.
Yeah, that was a name I thought about too, where he might slide in.
Right. And the question mark is what's going on with him? How's he doing? Is he healthy? What's the story? But he's too big a talent not to put somewhere.
Okay.
So I had him going to Raw. And after Bray, I took KO and Sammy.
Okay.
Um, then we were like-minded, took Grayson Waller next.
Mm-hmm.
Then Bobby Lashley.
Okay.
And then Roxanne Perez.
Okay.
So
we did
that
have
was
both
my Raw
Roxanne
side.
game called up. Yeah, I guess I didn't put Lashley anywhere, which is surprising, but he got the call yesterday. So, but we look at the real results last night, Greg. Round 1 and round 2, I don't think there was too many, surprises per se. We saw Roman get picked with Solo, Paul Heyman, so they're kind of pushing him as the bloodline side of things. And then it went to Cody, then it went to Bianca, then it went to Becky. So we did see SmackDown getting Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, but then we also saw Raw keeping Becky Lynch. A lot of people brought up, Greg, we hope we don't get the whole, they're just going to switch the titles, like literally hand them over. But
Right.
it won't surprise me if they do that. I mean, unless you do, I don't know. But SmackDown round 2 saw Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, Street Profits, get picked up. And then we did see Imperium get switched over to Raw, which I think is a good move for them. Kind of gets them out of, they've done a lot over on SmackDown, so probably time to freshen it up over there. I guess the move of Edge is interesting. Does he maybe go after Roman? Just to kind of give Roman a filler feud for some time, Greg. And we see Matt Riddle go to Raw, which also makes me wonder if maybe Orton shows back up on Raw there. So, any thoughts on the first kind of couple rounds, Greg? Because I think we do want to get into the third round that saw, or no, fourth is either whichever one saw Shawn Michaels and Road Dogg lose some big pieces of their roster. So, any kind of thoughts there on the first couple rounds? Like I said, it felt pretty, as they say, chalk. If you want, I mean, I guess the Street Profits is a pretty high pick, isn't it?
It is, and I think they kind of wink, nudge this because that talk about Montez has been not quiet. We've been talking about that for a while, and when they announced it, the next pick is Montez Ford. Pause, and D'Angelo Dawkins, the Street Profits, instead of just the Street Profits. And so I think that's kind of, winking at us. Not yet, guys, not yet. So I was surprised they got picked that early, but I'm excited about it because that means they're going to get, a fresh push, and they're going to do more than just like 50-50 booking with them. And you're going to need, legit tag teams. And um, I love them. I've loved them since NXT, and I hope this works out for them. Um, Becky, I was surprised they took so soon because I figured you want both the women's champions, off the board quick. But I guess that's going to be saved for Raw, and
Yeah.
they're going to, decide what to do with the Raws with Rhea. So, you know, that's the weird thing I was talking about. What half of the roster is getting picked tonight, which half is getting picked tomorrow, because usually you clear the board with champions first.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then the
I wonder
solo
if
thing
Rhea
got
was
me.
on
So,
I wonder if Rhea was on the European tour. I felt like I didn't see her mentioned much, but or maybe
yeah.
just taking a couple of days off. So, what about Edge? Edge gets some fresh feuds maybe on, unless you kind of put him back with with Rey Mysterio and kind of let that ride out again. But kind of curious about Edge's spot on SmackDown. Maybe some Sheamus work, him and Brawling Brutes, but I kind of wonder if they might put him with Roman, just like I said, to kind of give Roman a filler feud for the time
Mhm.
being.
Yeah, Edge was kind of a surprise because I thought that, he's just that, part timer, just shows up wherever he pleases, and
Yeah.
jumps into a storyline and writes it out, then disappears again.
Mhm.
So having him dedicated to one side was a little bit of surprise, especially being taken this soon. Um, so he could definitely be a filler
Yeah.
feud for Roman, while the bloodline story finishes taking effect with the Usos and Solo and all that. And then maybe we do get that Roman versus Jay
That could be
SummerSlam
too.
match.
Mhm.
And then Riddle getting picked so high, that was a big surprise too, because, I know he just got back, but
Yeah, we weren't sure.
um,
He'd have to eat some eat some pro, as they say.
right.
Eat your
And
lumps,
this,
but
yeah, but this,
doesn't feel like he is.
aids to I know, this kind of aids to my forecasting of Randy Orton coming back.
Mhm.
I don't know why. I just have a feeling that, we're going to see him sooner than later.
Yeah.
And, um, I had him going to SmackDown. You figure they're going to want to put him where Riddle is and try to recast that magic. So I guess we'll
Or,
see.
or give us the feud for WrestleMania maybe next year. So
And the Usos, well, spoiler alert, I think are going to end up on Raw. So there you got
yeah,
RK Bro versus the Usos, and there's some payback to be had right there. So,
yeah.
the Usos are the ones that took Randy Orton and put him on the shelf all this time, and Riddle's going to want revenge for that. And so, there's um, scores to settle right there.
And of course, the big note to take effect is all these don't matter. Don't take effect till after Backlash, so we can play
Right.
out Backlash stuff. And we'll kind of get into what that means for Raw moving forward, since they have a new champion, or they will have a new champion crowned that night of champions. So, SmackDown round 3, they took Bobby Lashley. I guess the interesting name here is Drew McIntyre. We'll see if he shows up on Raw. Maybe he is legit just kind of hurt. Maybe they're just working on some short term, 1 year deals, as they do like in the NFL sometimes, just to kind of let things play out. But SmackDown, how about Michin, Greg? I forgot she was still an OC member. So I guess she's just, she's kind of there. But I think, the OC on SmackDown is a good, probably fresh air for them. Let them kind of see, AJ Styles, his 2016 to 2017 run on SmackDown, Greg, was
Yeah.
ridiculously good. So maybe it's, a good way for him to finish the ride out here. Then, of course, Raw gets the Miz. I think Raw always ends up getting the Miz back in these, Greg. I mean, even though, the biggest Miz moment was on Talking Smack, but I feel like for the most part, it feels like Raw's been that. But round 4, Greg, was kind of that was the whoa, what's going on here? So we had the Damage Control shifted to SmackDown, which, like we said, I'm very surprised they're still all together. Raw gets Nakamura, but SmackDown gets the tag team champions of NXT. And then you also saw Kaden Carter and Katana Chance say they want another shot at them. I hope they don't just, beat them on Tuesday, though, Greg. Like, that feels like a really weird thing. But at the same time, you probably got to get rid of the tag team titles off them. So, but also Indy Hartwell got drafted to Raw. So now we have the Way, possibly all back together, probably. You put Dexter Loomis on Raw, you put Johnny Gargano, you put Candice LeRae on Raw, and then we got we got the Way all back together. But I guess we are going to see a transitional championship for Indy Hartwell, which is just kind of a weird way. And she was in a boot on the show, Greg. So I don't know if that was just to play off what happened at the end of the match, or if it's a legit concern, or So, give us some thoughts on round 3 and 4 for you. What do you think about the NXT champions, essentially women's champions, all of them being drafted?
Yeah, I mean, you figured the champions would stay put, which is why I kind of went the other way with picking Waller, picking Roxanne, and picking people who didn't have titles, and we get all the women champions going up. And it's going to seem kind of forced to have them drop the titles on the way out the door. I mean,
I'm going to assume they're going to win.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Is that you want that steam coming up to the main roster, not that they're coming in on a loss and just lost their belts because they were just on TV with their belts.
Maybe somebody could beat them on SmackDown. Like maybe an NXT team gets wants to challenge them on SmackDown, maybe, and that's kind of puts a lot of love between NXT and SmackDown. So
right. And Indy, with the foot in the boot, I could see her doing more of the, I'm going to relinquish my belt.
Yeah.
I'm not healthy. But the tag champs, you kind of like to see them come up with the belts and, give themselves that credibility coming in, because, a lot of people are like me and can barely stand to watch NXT except for when certain people are on. So, you need that credibility. You need to, let them know, we're came from NXT, but, we're the top of the top. We got the belts. So I would rather have them win and come up and, just defend the title on both brands until they lose them. But yeah, that was a huge surprise. Those were not the names we were expecting. And,
actually, the first name, they were the first names of NXT to be called up too.
That's true. Exactly.
Draft. Like, I guess I also I'm wondering if, we maybe should combine women's tag team champions, just make one unified one.
That's an interesting thought too.
Right now, both brands are kind of struggling with their women's championships for the tag team side of things. So maybe it makes sense just to have, one set of tag teams are defend across the brands, all 3 brands. But then again, you got to wonder if TV wise that makes sense. But I wouldn't hurt. It would. I would love to see it happen. That's what I'm trying to get to say. I don't think it would be a bad thing to make one set of men's tag team champions and one set of women's tag team champions. And they're just kind of free agents, and they can defend where they need to.
Yeah. And it was a huge shocker that Damage Control stayed together. I was making this list, and I was trying to figure out, okay, who do we move, to the other brand? And while I was filling out these top 10s, I was like, there's not really a place I like to do it yet.
Yeah.
And to see that they let them all together and set them as a unit over to SmackDown was a big shock. So I guess the split up is going to happen while they're all together still, because you see, the side eyes going on when they do their promos, and um, both of them were looking at Bailey funny when she inserted herself in that championship match that she eventually gave the shot to Io. Um, and each promo you're seeing them, Bailey says something, and one of the other girls or both of them will kind of look like, yeah, I don't agree with that. And so it's going to happen, but we just figured it'd be because they just split them up in the draft, but I think it's going to be split up on TV.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, so that's on the draft. We'll see the rest of it take place. I think they're doing a kind of the supplemental draft today, Greg. I thought they said after whatever SmackDown Loaded or whatever they call some recap show, I think they have. So maybe we'll see names throughout the day, kind of switch brands, and we can talk that up, next week. And then, of course, Monday night, we'll see the other half of the roster. I'll be curious to see, what other NXT people get called up with this, this big of a surprise. So we'll kind of see what that brings. But let's get into some Raw talk. Cody Rhodes, of course, opened up the night. Just like we've been doing, it set up him and Finn Balor. He did, of course, defeat Finn Balor. We almost got a mini Bullet Club reunion again, Greg, because we have Cody Rhodes, Bullet Club member. We have Finn Balor, Bullet Club member. So who knows? Maybe one of these days we'll just say F it, Greg, and it's AJ, Finn, Cody, the OC all together, raising up the Bullet Club symbol. But for now, really fantastic match between Finn and Cody. And I kind of like the idea of Cody teaming up with Finn, obviously, because I think that's just a good pairing. But Cody just continues the show, and I think your side of the take of Brock's probably going to beat him is making more sense because Cody's picking up all these wins heading into it, and just let Cody build up from the ground up. So he had to show off the little mark, his bruise, of course, from the surgery. From Hell in a Cell that took place in Chicago. So nice hot crowd for Chicago.
Yep.
We didn't even get into the little, I guess, breaking news that possibly CM Punk met with some backstage talent at before Raw happened, Greg, and tried to get a scheduled meeting with Triple H. But we'll talk about that, maybe the AEW stuff. Kind of forgot about that by the wayside by the time this week had happened. But let's go with Cody Rhodes and then Finn Balor versus Cody Rhodes. Some thoughts on that?
Yeah, good match. As soon as they, face off, that we're going to get a match, and it delivered definitely. Finn comes out trying to recruit Cody into the Judgment Day, so it gives you a little peek of, gets your mind thinking, okay, what if? But it wasn't going to happen. But it was a fun little, thought to throw out there.
Yeah.
And is Cody averse to ever going heel? Absolutely not. And I think Cody is actually really good as a heel when he gets that opportunity. So, down the road, maybe, um, but, they wouldn't just throw that out there randomly. I think there may be something to it.
Yeah.
Maybe not now. But, yeah, loved how this started. Cody and Finn are, consummate pros, and had great chemistry in the ring together, beginning and end.
Bloodline picked up a win. Street Profits picked up a win, Greg. But let's just get into it. The new WWE World Heavyweight title. Pretty much the big gold, Greg, as they call it, with the WWE logo splattered in the middle of it. Yeah. I get you want a champion, on Raw now because obviously SmackDown has Roman. But there's a couple of takeaways here, Greg. The first one is do not give this to Cody Rhodes. Please, for the love of God, do not give this to Cody Rhodes. Actually, it's probably Seth Rollins to lose, but that's my pick, obviously, Greg. I think Seth makes perfect sense to get it. And then also, what was the other? I can't think of my other take right now, but I get it. Oh, it's pretty much because you booked yourself in the corner with Roman. Like we said, Greg, there's nobody left. There's nobody. There's nobody to take off the title. Like until we get to the Roman Cody story again next year in Philadelphia at WrestleMania 40 with the Rocky story in the background as well. Yeah, Roman's going to be holding both those titles through summer, fall, winter, and possibly next spring, Greg. That's pretty much how it's going to be. So I know you're a big WCW guy. So your first thought on that look of that title?
Yeah, a little throwback to the old classic 10 pounds of gold that Ric Flair used to carry around, just a little bit smaller. Um, Love the new title. Looks how it looks. That's how a championship title should look. The belts that Roman carries around, they look like, something you'd buy in the souvenir shop. Um, and this is more what, the title should look like. It's what we grew up with. That's what we're used to. And they doing the constant redesigning of the championships just kind of, lessen the, appeal of it. So um, I love how the new title looks. And yeah, I think I saw some veiled shots fired at Roman from Triple H.
Yeah.
Talking about Roman being part-time and setting his own schedule. And we need a champ who's going to be in, week out, defending his title. And, he acknowledged him as, a GOAT. But, we need a guy who's a working man's champion. And so, some thinly veiled shots fired over at the Roman camp. And I was surprised Roman wasn't at the draft to, voice his displeasure about a new championship being unveiled. I'm sure that's going to come soon. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to have him bring out that belt at the end of the first hour, cut that promo, and then see for the next 2 hours the challengers come out who are potential going to be put in the mix somehow, like Finn Balor walking by and looking at that belt and kind of smiling. Um, and different guys just walking by and kind of giving that nod. It's like, okay, they're going to be in the mix somehow, and seeing how that's going to play out and start putting the names in the picture. And I agree with you. Please, not Cody, not yet. You shouldn't be him getting gift wrapped the championship belt, right off the bat. He's going to have to earn it, or we're going to lose respect for him. And we see how that looks when he was on the way out of AEW. He's getting booed out the building every time he stepped in the ring. So, let's not give it to him too soon. I'm with you on the Seth is the one who deserves it.
Hashtag for Seth.
There we go.
I mean, I don't
Seth
really know
doesn't
who
need
else makes sense, right? I mean, maybe there's, or maybe Drew. Maybe this is their. Could this be their?
to make good for Drew.
Yeah, make good for Drew. Hashtag justice for Drew.
Okay, so you got some hashtags going out. I like it. Hey,
I guess this
helped.
is why we changed the king and queen, the king of the ring and queen of the ring as well, Greg, because they were probably working on this in the background. So now this is a way to, have a big moment in Saudi Arabia, because obviously Roman probably isn't defending his title there. So now you'll have a champion crown there. So what better way to kind of have a brand new champion? And it's also one of those things where I don't want somebody's first, carrying cross. Like I don't want his first world title to be something like this, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the thing too. I don't really know if there's anybody that hasn't won. Like, do we have anybody out there that's like a Cesaro back in the day, where we're like, okay, he needs his first world title. There's not many names right now, Greg, that I can think of that have Bray's won the title before. Um, yeah, I get, we'll have to kind of think, but um, I just thought it was funny. People were like, well, it's just got well, of course it's going to have the WWE logo, just splattered there in the center. I mean, but
Of
it
course.
does look a lot like the big gold, as they say.
Yeah.
We'll see. Go ahead. Sorry.
My first thought was Finn Balor, just because going
Yeah.
back to the original unveiling of the Universal Championship, him and Seth winning on
Yeah.
that first night, and then having to give up the belt and not really getting to defend it.
Yeah.
And,
I could get that.
having this new belt unveiled, Seth or
And the Judgment Day need that. They need
right,
a title person. So okay,
and Finn
yeah, I can
is
get
a
behind that.
central character on the biggest or in the biggest click on Raw. So,
Mhm.
give him a shot to do it again. Get um, his make good
And
and
he's a
get a
workhorse
run.
because it feels
Exactly.
like they're going to be. They want this to be defended. So damage control. Greg eats another L. Bailey eats the pin this time. So yeah, Belair, Raquel, and Liv Morgan pick up the win there. How about the rare win in your hometown um, for Positively Ali, Greg? Good old Muhammad Ali or Mustafa Ali picks, picks up the win in his hometown because they definitely made the from Chicago, Illinois, very prominent. So
hmm
uh, good win for Ali there. Uh, where we think? Do we see any? Do we see anything for Ali?
No, I'm not digging this little hippie positive
Does this just feel like
slant
he's
he's
out the
got going
door
on.
soon?
It doesn't make sense for him, and it smells like Stardust in here.
Yeah.
So I think he could be on the way out the door, and they just kind of give him a shiny moment in his hometown before he's gone. But I don't think they really have a spot for him unless they throw him in a clique.
Then we did bring up Cody picking up a win, but we got our. I mean, I assume this is going to be the main event, Greg. um, so we saw Rey Mysterio win by DQ. Bad Bunny gets involved. Damian Priest is out there. Judgment Day, all that. But it ends up Bad Bunny just taking a couple kendo shots to Damian Priest, and now we are set for the Puerto Rico street fight, Greg. Because whenever you need a street fight, you have to add the city's name to it. So
Right.
I'm going to assume this is the main event for Backlash. Because right now,
Yeah.
there's really nothing. I mean, I guess you could do Rhea and Zelina if you want. If you want to go the old, well, champions need to close out the night. But this feels like the going to be the main event, and this is going to be a big stage for Bad Bunny and Damian Priest too, which is cool to see. And both their hometowns, so I kind of like it. Giving them that opportunity to first pay per view back, or well, I guess live event there, whatever they're calling it, and kind of let them, close out the night there in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I agree. And normally I would hate this, but after seeing that WrestleMania match with Priest and Bad Bunny and Miz and Morrison, that match got me. That set the bar, reset the bar for performers outside WWE, especially from other walks of life like music or TV or whatever, coming in and getting in the ring. He impressed me. He won me over that night. And so, you know, now I love this match
Yeah,
because now you're bringing it full circle. You have the guys who were, shout out the priests who put Bunny on the map for that match. And now you're having those two without other opponents going against each other, in Puerto Rico, in Bad Bunny's home country. And the place is going to be rocking. The earth is going to be moving when he comes out as a competitor, and I'm sure we're going to have a banger. We're going to have a street fight, so everything's going to go.
and you
He's
could
going to be able
still
to hit him
throw
with
in
everything.
like Finn. You could throw Dom. You could throw Ray. You could throw the LWO because Street Fight means no rules. So um,
Exactly. You can
you
have
could
somebody
still,
come in and help him out.
yeah. But
He
you
he
always
did
give them
Ray
the
a solid.
spotlight. Yeah.
Exactly. He did Ray a solid at WrestleMania. Ray can come back and do him a solid in Puerto Rico. So, everything fits perfectly. So it has to be the main event just because, it's the number one selling artist in the world right now, Bad Bunny, and on a big stage, and he's going to have eyeballs on him, and not even just wrestling fans. People who are just fans of his music are going to be
Yeah.
watching this. So, he's got to get that top spot.
That's probably the funniest thing, Greg, like to think of all the biggest artists of all time, like the Beatles in a match, like like that would. But I don't know, Paul McCartney, he's still kicking it, Greg. He might want to step up and he might want to take some shots at the Miz. He could do some work with the Miz, right? The Miz is worried to work with anybody, but just funny to think, Bad Bunny, most streamed musician on Spotify, WWE superstar. Like, who would have
Yeah.
imagined, um, that type of stuff happening? So,
Yeah,
let's get
Miz
some.
makes everybody look good, so got to give him a shout out.
He does,
You know,
and
um,
Damian Priest is going to make Bad Bunny look good in this match.
yeah, absolutely.
Here's some stuff from. So we just had spring breaking happen. Braun Breaker picked up a win. The family picked up a win. Cora Jade picks up a win. I was kind of surprised that Carmelo Hayes and Grayson Waller was like the middle of the night, Greg. But this is why I think we both put Grayson Waller. He has to be called up.
Yep.
Finished business there. How about we also saw Josh Briggs, Fallon Henley. So we did see Briggs and Jensen all back together with Fallon, Greg, which I think is what I kind of was like. It has to go one way or the other. We have to be done with all this now. So
Yeah,
how about that Oba Femi guy? Man, that guy, he's a hoss. he's got
he
some.
is.
He's got some built to him, doesn't he?
I know he's got some bulk. He's almost except just a little bit smaller, but a lot thicker.
Yeah.
And I like the promos of him throwing everything in the kitchen sink across a football field.
Yeah.
Um, so
He's going to be
the
interesting
guy,
to watch going up.
yeah, he has a good look to him, and he's going to be a problem when he steps in there against real talent. So I like his debut. He looks good. He looks strong, and um, I want to see him in there, with some hoss fights, and I want to see how he does on the stick because that's what's going to separate you from the rest of the pack.
And Indy Hartwell picked up a big win, but like we said, I'm going to be curious to see. I think it makes most sense, like you said. She can play up this boot injury and just say, "Hey, I hit the Rio English shit. I'm going to go get better and kick ass on Raw, back with my family." So, any thoughts, Greg? Kind of on anything from spring breaking? We did see Braun Breaker make his name known in the Carmelo Hayes. He took him out afterwards as well. So, like we said, I think it'll be interesting, Greg, this time with a legit face in Carmelo and a legit heel in Braun Breaker. But I also think Braun Breaker's probably due up after that. I don't, past SummerSlam ish. Even before, I think we probably should see Braun making his name known upscale on the main roster.
Yeah, I agree. Spring breaking was good. It wasn't great,
Yeah.
but it felt like kind of a step back from the last pay-per-view. Um, but slow
It
and
was also
steady,
a
I
TV
guess.
episode. It's hard to get that real big environment to it.
Yeah. Um, Everybody, did their parts. Everything looked good. Um, Nothing. There was not really a barn burner of a match. The women's match was good. Um, Everything kind of went the way you expected it to. But there's nothing wrong with that. Carry forward the storylines and uh, build to something bigger. So
Yeah.
it was still a decent show, and
We'll have to see
I
what
like,
they plan for Battleground, which I think is going to be huge because that's going to go up against Double or Nothing, Greg. And we already see what they can play for Double or Nothing. So Battleground's going to be kind of a big one to see what they can do for that. And then SmackDown, we kind of talked about the all the draft stuff, so we don't want to be really at that, Greg. But and of course like we said, I think we had half the roster available. So there wasn't as much in-ring action just because of that. LA Knight, though, picked up a big win. So he's going to start picking up wins, Greg, going to now he's going to crash out of the Money in the Bank, isn't he?
Yeah, we got to do it, man. We got to do it. We got to get the man in there. I was so happy to see him in there getting a win. Had a really good match. And I was like, okay, we're going to get this man some love. And I wanted to put him on my list for to be drafted.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find a spot for him yet. But I think when Raw resumes the draft, that he is going to be a draft pick. So
does he go to Raw? Or do you think we keep him on SmackDown?
I think I want to see him on Raw. I'm still leaving it out there that he goes and has a feud with The Miz and takes over the talk show, but get an LA Knight talk show. I'm still trying to wish that into existence. So I'm keeping out there, hashtag justice for LA Knight, and get him some love, give him a push, because he's already over. He's already over, losing matches. So now he's starting to win matches. You saw in that match that he had, there was an LA Knight chant going through the crowd. So, people are into him. They just got to give him more time on the air and let him do his thing.
The Street Profits picked up a win. They've had a pretty good week, picking up a couple wins. So maybe they're going after Owens and Zayn, because that's what I wanted to bring up at the end, Greg. It's kind of hard to see who's next for them, but we'll get into that. Zelina Vega got a nice win. Looks like the Karens are going to head to Raw to bring up their issues, Greg, with everything going on. So I do want Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green drafted together. I do think that needs to say a thing. It's working. I don't know what the ultimate end game is, Greg, but hey, sometimes you just kind of keep going with it and see where it goes. But what about the match though for Rhea and Zelina? It's going to be a nice showcase for Zelina, right? Kind of give her a nice test, to show what she can do.
Exactly. You discount her from the beginning because she's so small and Rhea's Rhea, and you figure she's going to throw her around the ring and pin her whenever she likes. But they've gone out the way to tell her story. She's from Puerto Rico. This is her chance, and underdog, blah blah blah. And I think we're going to end up getting a good, 15-minute back and forth 4-star match. Yep. So I think we're going to see what Zelina can do in this match more than we've ever seen. So, all the tricks come out of the bag, and, some near falls we didn't expect, stuff like that. And, she shows out, in her home country, makes everybody proud. She's still going to lose the match, but, we're going to have a new respect for her after the match.
And then also we saw AJ Styles and the OC kind of get into it with the Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders still need somebody on their side, though, Greg, just because it's still 3 guys versus 2 guys. So I'll be curious to see, who could we Edge? Can we get Edge with the OC? I mean, with the Viking Raiders, he's got a nice Viking, and he was on the show Vikings, but I guess it does let AJ Styles not do as much, though. You just have the tag team trying to do things, and then AJ can do his own thing, Greg. And then you also have Michin and Valhalla, Sarah Logan, out there too. So you definitely have options there to do. But I'm all about big old beefy brawls, and Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, when they can really start throwing their punches, Greg, they can brawl with the best. So that's a nice little feud. Just coming right out of the draft. So, and then I did want to bring up Owens and Zayn. They pick up the win. The bigger storyline is going to be what is Roman's reaction to the Usos, Greg. But at the same time, I don't know who's next for Owens and Zayn. I mean, I guess it's got to be the Street Profits. They keep picking up wins. Maybe they take off the blue titles. That's probably the thing. We probably got to split up these tag team titles, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's going to need to be done. They're doing it with the world titles, and now they need to do it with the tag team titles. And Street Profits, when they were champs, they were really good. So, and they're already, mega over with the crowd. They had the whole, the whole crowd, waving their hands and getting the party started. So they're as good a pick as anybody. And until we form some, legit tag teams, then why not? You've got Sammy and Kevin on one side, and you have the Street Profits, and you can line up people to go at them. I think the only thing or moment of hesitation is, do you want two teams that are both faces as your champion, as opposed to one side that's a face champion, one side that's heel champions, and you're, working opposite ends of the spectrum, depending on what show you watch. So, but I hope the Street Profits end up with those titles because they deserve them.
Yeah, and I think for now it's okay, just because you also have Roman as such a huge heel, Greg, as the world champion. So I think two face champions is for the time being, I think would be good, and because by SummerSlam you can have a heel team. Maybe you have Pretty Deadly, coming up with momentum, or maybe the Viking Raiders finally get a legit title run, Greg. I guess it is hard for us to remember that they were actually Raw champions. With the Street after they beat the Street Profits, past all the gimmicky stuff they tried doing outside the ring. I'm almost positive the Viking Raiders were Raw champions for a short amount of time. So, I think I would be okay with it now. So, let's do some commercial breaks because we have talked your ears off here for the past 52 minutes. So, let's get some of our sponsors some love, Greg, and then get right to AEW news and notes. I completely disregarded the CM Punk stuff, so maybe we can save that in our last call, but we got a couple other stories that just showed up in our My News feed, but we can always get into AEW stuff and CM Punk's name being out there. But let's get some commercial break for Rogue Energy, Elite Performance, and our real estate rock star, which is Sean Nugent. So let's get that out of the way first.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy Dan over at BWSPORTS1.com and Black and White Sports. And I'm wondering if you're ready to buy or sell that home, now's the time, and I got just the person for you. Mr. Sean Nugent, a.k.a. Rockstar Realtor himself. 317-503-8322. Put that home on the market. Get into your dream home with this man. Talk to Sean at Talk to Tucker today, 317-503-8322, and make sure you tell him the boys over at BWSPORTS1.com sent you.
All right, so some of the stuff I saw just come out for AEW was we're already ready for a big steel cage match next Wednesday on Dynamite. I think it's interesting they're listing IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley. Greg, this is going to be a barn burner. Expect blood. I expect Hangman Page to finally make his way back to help out Omega or something like that. And yeah, I think this is going to be a really fantastic match to watch on Wednesday night. So that was kind of the story I saw make the rounds, Greg. Your take on this match next Wednesday night?
Oh yeah, there will be blood, buckets and buckets of blood. Um, every time Kenny and Moxley get in there, they kill it and damn near kill each other. Um, so I am here for it. I'm hyped. Love that it's a cage match because otherwise it's going to be all out of the ring and in the stands and
Yeah.
with the level of violence that they've been introducing lately. You want to keep that contained, and we're better than in a cage. So they may go out and buy extra screwdrivers because some couple are going to show up in the ring.
Oh yeah.
But I'm so pumped to see this match. These two in a cage, absolutely sign me up.
And then the other thing was, this is our first look at Sweet Tooth, Greg, and Twisted Metal of Samoa Joe. Were you a Twisted Metal video game player back in the day? On the PS2 or 1, I think it'd be?
No, not really. I saw it and I played it maybe a couple times, but it wasn't anything I was good at. So I watched other people play it, but
it was a fun little game. I won't act to Greg like I was the most biggest hardcore champion playing of it, but I do remember playing a pretty good chunk of it, and like Sweet Tooth was always a fun character to be because it's that ice cream truck that was just going around. So this is gonna be Samoa Joe's kind of forte. I don't know how much I'll watch it, Craig, but I feel like I might check it out just to kind of see how it is. So yeah, that was the other news story. But I guess we'll get into the big story, which was CM Punk meeting with backstage Raw and SmackDown Town, and possibly The Miz was mentioned, Greg, and also Triple H was mentioned. He was ultimately asked to leave. I think it's funny that he got in anyway, right? I mean, you wouldn't, if you're a security guard and or any WWE backstage person, and you're like, oh, this is CM Punk just kind of walking through the backstage area. But do you think that's just getting his name back out there, Greg, or was there any sort of smoke and fire to trying to, bury some hatchets and maybe get in the good graces for something down the road?
Yeah, I mean, it's CM Punk. He probably has a key to the city, walking anywhere he wants.
Yeah.
But it is very curious, and it reminds me of, right now we're in the midst of, NFL draft and trades and free agency, and guys who are their teams can't do anything with them, so they pretty much tell the player, if you can work out a trade, we will trade you. And I wonder if this is a similar situation for CM Punk, where Tony Khan is giving him his blessing. He's like, okay, if you can work out something over there, I will release you. And, that's how he was able to, show up as a WWE show because, you're under a contract. You would assume that you're not allowed to be seen. Well, I guess he wasn't seen on camera or anything, but, even be at the venue of another a competitor that's not authorized, because there's beat writers in the back. There's gonna find Dave Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp and those guys who are going to spill the tea as soon as they see you backstage. So you figure he had to be at least have the blessing of Tony Khan even to be there. I know it's his hometown or whatever, but contractually, there could be ramifications to that if it's not approved. So I wonder if it's one of those deals where, he just kind of gives them the, if you can get a deal worked out with Triple H, I will let you go. And, otherwise, maybe there's something in the works to, like I said last week, have that come to Jesus meeting with Punk, the Elite, and all the people in Brawl Out to see if they want him back or not. And maybe they've already had that meeting. They've determined that they don't want him back. And he's like, okay, Raw's in Chicago, go talk to Triple H, see if he'll take you. And so it is curious to see what's going to happen and how it plays out. But I
I
think
guess I would be
maybe
curious
something
too,
like that.
who was the mole, Greg, who let him in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, who is he still kind of? I don't know if he has many friends left, Greg. Ultimately, maybe he did reach out to the Miz, and that started the train. But very interesting timing of it all as well. I think, like we said, with trying to get back on AEW. I mean, that could be it too. It could just be all employed just to get his name maybe right. Get my name in a good light and ultimately make that comeback. So, anyways, let's get into some in-ring action because until we see Punk back on TV, Greg, we're just gonna have to keep it in the wings. So, how about Orange Cassidy? I know people are hemming and hawing about the dominant phrase, but 20 straight wins, Greg, is 20 straight wins with the title defense. This isn't just singles wins just for nothing. This is the most. I think they said the most defended title. They're really putting the chips on Orange Cassidy, aren't they? And he's delivering. I mean, Bandito and him had a really fantastic match, and looks like they'll team them together just to kind of maybe give Bandito some TV time with probably the hottest thing going right now. I don't see anything wrong with saying he's a dominant champion, Greg, when he keeps winning. So, what do you think about Orange Cassidy and Bandito with their little pretty good match there?
I love the match. It was a great match, and loved Bandito from that first match he had. So I knew this was going to be a banger, and we got ourselves a banger. It was a great match back and forth, and good sportsmanship on the end after Cassidy wins, and nobody's hating on Orange Cassidy. So you figure at some point the crowd turns on you, but Orange Cassidy may be one of those exceptions to the rule. Everybody just loves him, and just that element of him that's so different from everybody else and anything else we've seen across the board. I can't think of another character that can even relate to Orange Cassidy, and that's probably the strength of his appeal. So, who better than to give a long, dominant title reign to? We've seen guys like Wardlow or a dime a dozen, guys like MJF who are big talkers and cowardly heels, dime a dozen. But a guy like Orange Cassidy, he's a person that we don't see. His size, his aura about him is just different. Everything about him is just different, and we love it. He's able to execute crazy offense with his hands in his pockets. Who else have we seen who can do that? So, there's all layers to the onion that make him awesome, and that's why we want to see him keep defending these championships, or his championship, and he deserves it.
Jeff Jarrett picked up a win. Whatever. Wardlow defeated somebody. What about him and Luchasaurus, Greg? Isn't that a both guys can't lose match?
It's going to be a house fight. I like that. We're getting a little bit something different. I mean, we've seen, faces against each other. Now we're going to see a couple of heels. See who can out heel each other. So it's kind of out of left field, but I'll take it.
Oh wait, are you calling you're putting Wardlow in the heel side?
Yeah,
is he only heel just because we don't? I mean, he's the face, though. I mean, in this,
he's.
I do want to see
scenario,
Luchasaurus as a heel. That's I will say that.
Yeah,
but it also is reintroducing him, so it's tough to how are you going to have him look good if he's going to lose ultimately? So that's the big
true.
one.
And I guess I was more thinking of the fact that the crowd isn't really behind Wardlow
That's
like
true.
they used to be.
I mean, I guess it's different then. He's a just
he's
there.
not a heel, but he's
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
he's got some work to do to get back to the Wardlow that
Yes.
we saw a couple years ago.
And like we said, the Arn Anderson thing, I don't know. This just feels like this has to be a last call, for this. Sammy Guevara defeated Darby Allin, but ultimately, Greg, we're going to get a tag team match where it'll be Sammy and MJF versus Darby and Jungle Boy. If Jungle Boy and Darby win, they are officially in the match and is a fatal 4-way. Yeah. So all that, Greg, just to get to this.
Right. And they could have done this 2 weeks ago and
just called the match.
Saved all this nonsense.
Set up different tag matches. Yeah. So, how about Roderick Strong in AEW? Excited? Not excited?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, This could be the beginning of a new Adam Cole faction, and you want Roderick Strong in there. I guess his non-compete time is officially up, and he can show his face on another screen. So,
Riley, I think, is still hurting, but he's there. Now, Bobby Fish he's on the outskirts. I don't know if we'll see Bobby Fish anywhere near this, but like you said, I think giving Roderick Strong kind of a reintroduction. His wife is already there, the problem, Marina. So, it's fine. But how about our girl Taya? She did not pull out the win, Greg, but it looks like she hasn't pulled out the win yet. That's what it looks like. So maybe they are going to wait it out to Double or Nothing and write in some way to let her use what's hers, the Fall of Valhalla?
The Valhalla, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to assume that's where we're headed.
Yeah, there was some shenanigans at work, and there was a couple times she could have hit the Jaded or the Valhalla on Jade, and of course the referee's going, nope, you can't do it, and so there's her out, and it's going to be hard to win if you can't use your finishing move, and she's going to find a way to get that little clause lifted, and we're going to have a legit match where she's going to win. So I think that's the road we're headed on.
Yeah. Almost hit on Aubrey Edwards. I don't know if Aubrey's ever taken a fall or done a bump in wrestling, Greg, but at least on TV, I don't think she has. So I was kind of looking forward to see how she would take that bump, but she did not take it. So, and then Kenny and Takeshita picked up a good win over Butcher and Blade. I kind of forgot Kip Sabian and Penelope were with Butcher and Blade, Greg. I did not know that was a thing. I do want to give them a big shout out. I don't know if we talked about it, but they did announce that I guess some time ago they lost a couple babies. They were trying to get pregnant. So that's why they were kind of out for some time being. I know for sure they lost one. They had miscarriage or it passed away right away. So good to see them, mentally okay, I guess, on TV, Greg. We don't, we don't know what it is behind the scenes to deal with that, but I just forgot they were with Butcher and Blade. And I still think we get Takeshita getting hurt somehow, Greg. And obviously it looked like that was the out. Or do we just see him join Blackpool Combat Club? I almost think that's the better option for him, isn't it?
I would rather see him join Blackpool.
Yeah.
The guy is, for as much as they hype him, he really doesn't win. Yeah. We've seen him get one win out of a handful of matches so far. And, he needs some killer instinct. He's too nice. He's too smiley. And in that match, it didn't do him any favors that, at the end of the match, he can't decide, he's on one side and then the other side talks him into, joining them and helping him out. He just seemed gullible right now. And I'd rather see him get trained by Blackpool and have that killer instinct become, the beast that he is in Japan, and, get some direction to him, because right now he just kind of looks like a kid who can't decide, what ride he's going to get on at the amusement park. Deer in headlights kind of thing. So, choose a side, and I think we'd rather see him for his talent and his ability to be on the BCC side. Because look at a case in point with Real Yuta. He was kind of the same way with Best Friends.
Happy, smiley guy.
Right. And now look at him. He's a killer. So, and he's had championship runs. So I think he'd be better off with the BCC. And plus you have Wheeler to use as a, I don't know if they're the same descent, but maybe because I don't think he's Asian, but
I don't know what Wheeler. I feel like he's almost like Philippine, or I hate to say, like that, almost, like Asian culture of some sort.
Yeah. So that could be a common ground there too, and you can have a potential tag team right there.
So then some Rampage stuff. Jay White, Juice Robinson pick up a win over Ricky and Sean Spears. This was an early 5:30 Rampage, Greg. Hopefully Rampage can get back to a normal slot at some point, so actually know when it's on and not have to catch it, whenever. But Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes pick up a win, Greg. Naturally Limitless is their name. Naturally Limitless, but anyway. So Anna Jay picks up a win, but Julia Hart came out to attack her. So there we go. We'll get that going. And the Acclaim picked up a win, and Jay Lethal, of course, picks up a win because Jeff Jarrett picked up a win, Greg. So they defeat the tag team champions. So we know what that means. They will get a tag team title shot, but they will lose. So that's fine. Any thoughts on Rampage? And then we have some breaking draft news coming out, Greg. So we'll get that in my last call here.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the NJ and Julia Hart angle because it seems like it's going to be, a nasty, vicious, girl fight. We love those. I was watching
Probably
it with
something they both need.
Exactly. And I was watching it with the Queen of the Castle. Like I said, new fan, and seeing all these people for the first time, looks at Julia Hart in her, gothy get up and goes, Britney Spears. I'm like, oh, now I can't unsee it. And now I look at Julia Hart and I think Britney Spears. Yeah. So she does seem like dark and evil Britney Spears. But I'm loving that this is going to be a thing now, and we're going to get, a Brit and Thunder Rosa level rivalry out of these two. Yeah. I want to see it. I'm here for it. And so I think that was the best thing on Rampage. The other match was kind of unspectacular, to say the least.
So our last call, Greg, it looks like NoDQ.com is posting up some results from, like we said, this weird, just random drafting that they're doing. So Dexter Loomis, Candice LeRae, Viking Raiders, Maximum Male Models, Natalia, Chelsea Green, and Sonya Deville are all on Raw now. So I think that, that definitely goes with hand in hand with the Indy Hartwell deal, and probably Johnny Gargano headed to Raw. I'm surprised by the Viking Raiders, though, because they were just, we had some feud set up for them with the OC, but now they're going to head to Raw, so I don't know if they're going to finish that off next week, it looks like. I think they're doing a match. Maybe they're just going to have that finished off there. And then also, SmackDown has picked up Hit Row and Lacey Evans. But we also saw J.D. McDonough and Zoe Stark, Greg, are now going to Raw. Zoe Stark. Miss Charisma Stark is headed to Raw. But J.D. McDonough, that's a big name. I'll be curious to see how he does on the main roster. Because I don't know in his Jordan Devlin days if we saw him on Raw, but now with the way he is, Greg, I think that's a big pickup. And then Apollo Crews going back to Raw.
Interesting.
And also, did you see the lawsuit that came out with Apollo Crews' name possibly being mentioned in it?
No.
So I guess there's some lawsuit like how, obviously he was forced to speak with the Nigerian accent. I don't know if somebody's putting this lawsuit for him, but there's also the talk of that they maybe wanted Ali to be a possible 9/11 attacker, which,
Oh, wow.
come on, people. Like, yeah. So there's some weird, I feel like it's going under the radar, Greg, but if more comes out about it, it's going to be more, it's going to hit the fan, as they say. But, Apollo Crews to Raw, Zoe Stark to Raw, JD McDonough to Raw, Hit Row to SmackDown, which they've kind of always been affiliated with anyway. Do you think we ever see Hit Row ever get a real push, Greg? Or do we think that that flub by Top Dollar is kind of ruined them for life?
Hit Row is revivable, but they need a new leader. Swerve's not coming back in that door anytime soon, but if they can get somebody else to lead the charge, they can be legit again. Hey, Carmelo Hayes and Trick and Hit Row, you might have something right there.
I know.
I think the Jordan Devlin, I wonder if there's some, or JD McDonough now, if maybe there's some history with Finn. And they can revisit that from NXT UK, or maybe they had some stuff going on when they were both indie wrestlers back in Ireland or wherever that part of Europe they're from.
I think
they crossed paths.
Coach. I think he was a coach, like he helped train JD because JD's a little bit younger than him.
Okay, so that could be something, and that could be really good, given those two.
And Zoe Stark, just give her all the titles, right?
Oh boy, Miss Personality joining the other Miss Personality with Indy Hartwell. I mean,
can we put her?
Here?
I almost want to put her with Sonya and Chelsea Green because they can at least talk, and maybe she could be their heavy.
Hey, I like it. It'd be a better fit than Damage Control, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, anything on your end for last call, Greg?
I'll call this our wish list for Monday night.
Okay. Yeah.
So my wish list is first LA Knight. I've already mentioned him.
Mm-hmm.
I want Asuka drafted over to SmackDown.
Yeah.
We get the continuation of her character redevelopment, and back in a high profile spot where she belongs.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that's the top of my wish list is I'm really hoping for Randy Orton or Big E to get drafted, because that means they're coming back.
Yeah.
And it's going to be soon, and we're going to see RK Bro back together, and we're going to see the New Day as a unit back together.
Yeah.
So I think those are the biggest things that I would love to see on Raw.
And then I do think we'll hear about whatever they plan, probably some sort of qualification matches, Greg, probably after Backlash for the WWE World Heavyweight title. I feel like we'll kind of put that in the back burner until after Backlash, since we'll have the roster set and all that. So a week from Monday, I'll be curious to see what names are kind of thrown in there. Do you go the route and only throw people who've never won? I still think that's an idea for Money in the Bank, Greg. I want a match where it's just they've never won anything. No title wins, no Money in the Bank. We've gone the opposite route. Oh, if you've won a title, if you won the World Heavyweight title / WWE title, you're in the Money in the Bank match. And I'm like, why? The whole point of Money in the Bank is to give you that edge. So I would love to see maybe if they do that route. But I like people brought up, this draft is kind of Triple H's baby now. We still have some of the Vince McMahon, obviously aura there, Greg, but a lot of people are taking this as Triple H's kind of rewriting, things and see where he can go with it. So, how'd the NFL draft shake out for your Chargers?
Well, first of all, before I get that,
Sorry, yeah,
to that point, I've seen it written. I forgot exactly where, but that this draft is the beginning of the Triple H era.
Yeah,
when he took over for Vince last year, took over creative and everything, is still finishing out the rest of the Vince playbook. And this right here, starting with the draft, is all Triple H. Everything is Triple H is doing, from who he drafts, who he puts where, the storylines, everything moving from here forward is all Triple H. The Vince McMahon playbook is closed and done with. This is all the Triple H era starting right now. That's what I saw. Do we believe that 100%? We'll see. But
Vince still has his hands in the cookie jar, as I say.
Right, but I'm hoping that that's the case, and I trust Triple H a lot more than I trust the Vince squad of writers and storytellers. So I hope that that's the case. As far as the draft, my Chargers went wide receiver in the first round, which I love because we need Justin Herbert to have targets.
Yeah.
Guys, one of the best, if not the best, deep ball passer in the league, and he hasn't really stretched the field and had targets to get vertical and get those big plays down the field. So this guy is 6'3" and a burner, big body, long arms, and if that's the case, then we're going to have two of those guys with him and Mike Williams. That guy's name is Quentin Johnson out of TCU.
Yeah. And
he's got speed, got the size, got the hands, and I think the only knock that they had against him on the show was that he likes to body catch the ball instead of using his reach and his wingspan to high point the ball or stretch out. But he's got Mike Williams next to him. Mike is going to teach him how to do that, and they're going to be unstoppable as two tall and fast targets that can go up and get those Justin Herbert laser beams that are going to be coming their way. And if they can do that, and he's as good as his first round value, then we're going to have something. And then they've drafted a linebacker and a edge rusher rounds 2 and 3. I think the rest of the draft is happening soon, right now, if it's not already. But what about your Colts? They got the quarterback of the future now.
Richard. That's the thing. I feel like it's either going to be. I mean, you had to take a shot at it. that's why I think I do like it. He's had. I mean, people talk him up as having the most potential.
Right. That means raw and unpolished.
Yes.
And you
which
take
is fine.
Number 4.
We're not in any position to win right now anyway. There's still some gaping needs. Like our wide receivers. I think they even have their totals as a whole to even match some player totals, Greg, as wide receivers. So that's not exactly great. Now, granted, Matt Ryan was running for his life most times last year, but and that's the thing too. Do we throw Anthony Richardson? He's not going to be game 1 starter, probably not game 2. But do you throw him in sometime at this season just to see what you start having? Or do you wait it out? Like not Jordan Love status, obviously, Greg. Even though, we're finally going to see Jordan Love this year, right? I think that's going to be something because I kept forgetting that guy was behind Aaron Rodgers all these years. So we'll finally see Jordan Love get his shot. But I think Anthony Richardson has tools, is unpolished, but you got Shane Steichen who, put together Jalen Hurts and helped him, polish up those areas he needed to. And look what Jalen Hurts did. MVP like season, or was he MVP or close to it, whichever it was.
He was in the hunt.
So, and then I think they picked up a couple other pieces. Like I think they did pick up a wide receiver later on, and then it looks like they got some offensive linemen now. So you still got a lot of glaring needs. So, like we lost Stephon Gilmore, was a big part of the defense. Bobby Okereke was a big part of the defense, Greg. They're hoping Shaq Leonard comes back, at some piece of Darius Leonard-esque, as it were. But, he hoped Jonathan Taylor's all good to go. He definitely wasn't looking himself this year, Greg. So hopefully he comes back all ready to go. And but I think Richardson, I kind of applaud them, swinging for the fences because, we need to get out of that. Let's try this, no offense to your Phillip Rivers guy, Greg, but obviously he was at the tail end. And they were hoping 2 years out of Phillip, but they got one. And then you go to Carson Wentz, and we saw how that went. Even though I think Jim Irsay, the owner, did not want any piece of Carson Wentz. So I think, even 2 years ago, they should have went a different route. And then, of course, Matt Ryan looked like a noodle. So, I mean, it had to be, Now we do have Gardner Minshew. So, like I said, I think Minshew will start the majority of this season. But if push comes to shove, they might throw Richardson out there just to kind of see where they're at with him. Because what's the best way to tell? You got to throw him in the game. So, and he only had I think they said 13 games in college, Greg, with a 6-7 record. So you don't exactly have the biggest, and then he kind of fell apart in the Kentucky game against Will Levis. And how about a fall for that guy, Greg?
That's what I was going to say. It's that. Are you happy they took him instead of Will Levis, who's a lot more polished?
I think I am. I mean, because I the way the NFL is going, you need that guy that can run and gun. You're starting to see that. Now in 10 years, does it go back to the pocket passer? Probably, because that's the way that it goes up and down. But if we want to be competitive, I mean, you got Herbert who can run some, right, if he needs to.
Oh yeah,
and he can launch it. You got Patrick Mahomes who is on. Let's just stick it to Roman's level, Greg. He's on God level. I mean, it's Mahomes, and then it's the rest of the quarterbacks. We thought we'd see Josh Allen pick up his pace. Josh Allen, I think he kind of took a couple steps back, though, this year. But, you got Lamar Jackson back in, Baltimore, who, if he can get back to where he is. So, you have Jalen Hurts in the NFC, who could run and gun. So, that's where the NFL is going. So, I think you had to get Richardson. If you weren't going to get C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, so I mean that I probably would have wanted them to maybe trade up if they could for C.J. Stroud, but I think they were fine with Richardson. I think that's who they had their eyes on the whole time, actually. So, But yeah, it's not going to be winning season by any stretch, Greg, and hopefully us fans can kind of tolerate that. But you look at my Pacers who have Tyrese Halliburton as an up-and-coming rising star. And then if you have the Colts, if Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., I mean, those are the days that you love, is just see your team growing with young guys. So that's what I miss. Like, your sons get to have another round of playoff games, and I'm thinking, man, I'm waiting for, the NBA draft to see who the Pacers can pick up. So, or probably free agent. I'm more interested in free agency. If there's a guy out there for that, our GM Kevin Pritchard has his eyes on, Greg, because I feel like there's the rumblings that maybe some guys want to come play with Halliburton because he's such a good point guard, and he's like a Chris Paul. He can distribute when he needs to, or he can take over when he needs to. So, and that's what you need on the NBA team. So yeah. Hopefully I can kick out the rest of this snot that I got going on. It probably sounds a little like Kermit the Frog at times. So that's been fun to do. But anyways, get out and get some fresh air today, right?
Exactly.
So, any big other plans for the weekend, Greg? Are you gonna kind of take it easy after last night? You got to work tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I've got to work tomorrow. Headed to a birthday party, and then probably gonna go see another um, local
Okay.
artist tonight, but different vein of music. This is more country-ish,
Okay.
um, type of music, so it's a lot less in the intensity
Yeah.
department. So be a little bit more easy listening compared to last night. And tonight is, or I think it's tonight, game one of Suns Nuggets.
Yeah.
So getting that kicked off, and that championship run continues. So let's go Suns, championship all the way, baby. Let's get it.
I know it's always kind of weird because first rounds are still finishing, Greg, I think.
Yeah.
And then we also have the second round starting. And then we'll have that weird, I think sometimes there's that weird spot where like there's nothing happening for a couple days. So just a weird, because the Lakers won last night, so they're moving on. That probably was shocking, right? To upset the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies did have a lot, like the Grizzlies never had that momentum going, I think.
Right.
Then what was the other one? We got the Kings and Warriors. Is that game 7?
The Kings won last night.
I thought they did because I think they're headed for game 7 tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. If Kings won, it is going to be a game 7. So
because I think there's 2 game 7s. If I thought somebody said, let's see, NBA playoffs. My researcher isn't doing his homework. So we had the Heat won. So they're moving on, which is a big surprise, but I thought we talked about that last week. But the Celtics moved on, so the Eastern Conference is set. The Sixers moved on, and the Knicks. So, yeah, the Eastern Conference is done. Nuggets won, they're moving on. Lakers won, they're moving on. So we'll have Kings-Warriors tomorrow at 3:30. Oh, yeah, sorry, just one game 7. Unless there's an NHL, but so yeah, your Kings and Warriors are sorry, not your Kings. My de facto Kings and Warriors are doing the game 7 business tomorrow, and then that will be done. So we'll one game of round 1, and then everything else will be kicking off. So, yeah, so it should be the Heat though. They're rolling, Greg. They could be the Cinderella, as it were. So we'll see where things go for them. We will be back.
They got Mike Walkie out the way.
Yep. We will be back next week. Backlash predictions, because they'll be next Saturday. So we'll do that live for your listening pleasure. Recap night 2, of the draft. Get caught up on maybe some AEW stuff if we can. I think we'll probably just maybe keep it to WWE Backlash predictions and the draft status stuff, and kind of let that be. So we will end it here and talk to you guys next week, though, at 11 a.m. Or back to our original time, Saturdays. So get you free on Sundays and kind of have at it.